Hi everyone. So we have another episode on the GTMR show. As you can see, we've really gone above and beyond with the production quality this time. All thanks to Khushboo and her friend. So thank you so much. And hi, how are you?
I'm well, Rutvij. Nice to see you in Bangalore. Last time when we spoke, you were in Mumbai, and now in Bangalore. That's why
Yeah.
this whole studio set up.
Yeah, lovely. Great. So we have with us Khushboo Verma, and she is the product marketing manager at QSC.
That's right.
She was also a deputy manager and marketing manager. Is that correct?
That's right. At Huawei, I was marketing manager first, and then deputy manager promoted in the segment.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey so far. You were primarily into the consumer space and then you transitioned into B2B
B2B.
marketing. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. When I was working at Huawei, it was B2C segment. We were taking care of smartphone segment. And that is where our topic, I got introduced to consumer insight. Before that, I had no idea. But the topic is relevant as much as in B2C as it is in B2B. The transition, I think, it was little slow because when I moved into B2B, it was also pandemic as well. So to understand channel partner, that is the approach. Consumer are not your target audience, but your channel partners are the target audience. That was little slower for me, but it has been very interesting. I'm enjoying B2B now because it is slower and more mature. There are a lot of things to learn in B2B. In B2C, it is so cutthroat and fast moving that learning is very momentum is not as much. So it has been interesting from the change from B2C to B2B.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us a little bit about the products that you've worked on, right? Because then that sets a context for the conversation that we'll have
Right.
here.
In B2C, like I told you, smartphone segment, you and I, everybody in the world use it. And for B2B, we have a loudspeaker. That was our legacy product with amplifier. But now we have a software in place where it's all about AV. That's why I knew so much about
Acha,
podcasts.
that was why. Okay.
That's why I was like feedback and
Ah.
all that, because we make loudspeaker, which is a US based company, and the more B2B segment is the conference room setting. We have microphones, small microphones. We have column speaker. We have cameras. We have touch screen, and then this all are designed on a software called QSys. So that is the whole product. When you walk into a conference room setting where you are connecting with somebody other part of the world, how to connect and collaborate easier and automate the whole room. That is all my company at QSC we do. And the product is, you are user of it. The end user is communicating with it, but you're not buying it. So that's why you're not my target audience, but you could be an influencer.
Right.
So that's why the whole market is different. For me, the target audience is perhaps an architect who's making the office space. Then SIs, system integrator, who does this cabling and everything in an office, and a consultant who designs it, where to place the channels, pull in all the plug wire for power as well as for network, and he would place the into a software how the loudspeaker, what is the coverage of a loudspeaker as such. That's why I was like, okay, mic and loudspeaker is far apart, so there won't be any feedback. This I learned in my company at QSC.
Great, awesome. And tell us about the target audience at Huawei. I mean, I'm sure everybody uses
Yes.
smartphones, but then I'm sure it must be a
Okay,
bit
so
specific also.
Huawei was very pocket friendly. Honor was very pocket friendly product, brand child of Huawei, and I was working for Honor. Honor is very Indian market oriented because Indian market is very price sensitive. So all the products were within the budget of Indian common middle class to lower class, that budget. that was the positioning, and the youth was the positioning target audience for us. So that's why you see the color very light blue, and a quick snap marketing was used, that it will go on sale and then it is out of stock within few minutes itself. So that's how the target audience was. The positioning was very much for youth, who is looking for camera and then making content while they are, living day to day.
Got it. Awesome. So my assumption is that customer insight studies is where any marketing or a GTM strategy would start from. Is that correct? Does that how it works?
I would say a consumer insight should start the moment you have incepted the idea of a business, to validate whether your business is good, and to understand your target audience also. So it starts from, where is the gap? What gap are you resolving? B, who's your target audience? C, what is the medium to reach this target audience? And then fourth, how, if you are going live, what should be the messaging? What should be the positioning? So that is all is resolved by consumer insight, and it has to be done tactically. It shouldn't be. I mean, I have seen a lot of forms which goes on around Google form, which is I'll probably tell you a little later about what kind of studies are. But sticking with your question, a consumer insight study is very, very important for GTM. It starts from the very start, when you have thought about an idea, till the very end when you are launching it. Even after you launch, how to measure how was your launch, I think consumer insight is very, very handy to find out the ROI of any campaign.
So let's say we do not conduct a user insight study, right? We just skip it. We just directly start marketing. What are we going to
You'll be
miss?
clueless. I think you will be clueless. See, okay, let's say you are launching and you have a campaign on Instagram. How would you define a demographic if you do not know who's your target audience, which you would achieve very clearly from consumer insight?
So let's assume that I have some sense of it. I have just broad sense of it, but I'm not really going into it. I'm not conducting a proper study for it. So is there anything that I'm missing out on? What are those very, the kind of insights that you would only get when you run that study for in a proper format? Is there anything that we're missing out if we don't?
Absolutely. When you do it if you are running a campaign for the first time, you could be lucky it is working out. For the second time or third time also, you could be lucky, you could not be lucky. But at third or fourth time when you are running the campaign, you would be thinking, what I'm missing, or which direction am I going? So on a very intuitive level, you can only run 2-3 campaign. But if you do not have a proper direction, this is what my consumer a goal in a fair sense, then I think you could only run 3 to 4 campaign, not after that. A consumer insight gives you a very far-fetched vision to work as well, and that's why consumer insight is very important to do it in a very frequent level also, because you and I know that we have a very changing behavior, consumer behavior also. Today you're using Facebook, tomorrow you're using Instagram or something else, or a Snapchat or something like that. So it's very important to understand a consumer behavior through consumer insight as well. So on your gut feeling, you can run couple of campaigns, yes, but it will not take you in a specific direction. That's why consumer insight is helpful. It is almost a method to go. I will actually give an example, which I keep telling it to other people as well. If you were lost in a forest, what would you do? And your phones are not working, nothing is working, satellites, you see everywhere, technology is already ripped off. So how would you get to the place? You start collecting information, right? You see that sun is setting over here, and then you see the path or something. You start collecting information and you try to get to the spot where you want to. That is exactly consumer insight is. You start collecting information which is relevant to your business, which is relevant to your target audience, to understand your target audience. It is no, I don't know. It's just a method. I since I have a background of physics, I try to put everything into equation. I think it's a set formula, very confident set formula. If you put consumer insight, you know where you're going, and do it multiple times to ensure that you know your consumer behavior is not changing.
Got it. Cool. So why don't you break it down for us? Why don't you tell us, let's say maybe if you could pick a product and then just quickly run us through what the broad consumer insight study might look like for that product.
Right. See, I think if we took a product, it would be very niche. I would rather have it, because I told you I'm more physics oriented. It is more like a step.
Yeah.
So what I like is a combination of qualitative study and quantitative study. I'll tell you what is qualitative study. It is a more focus group. You invite couple of people to get on a focus study for 45 minutes. You have set of questions. Very important. You should always understand the objective of your study first, and then frame question, and then invite somebody, because it's a bizarre, because I have learned from my lesson where I've called in people. I have very tentative kind of question, and there's no
real purpose to that test, maybe.
Yes. So only through hard work I figured out your questions. First you have to define an objective, draft questions accordingly, and then ask question from focus group. Otherwise, it is waste of time. So step A, if it is a qualitative study, define your objective, what you want to achieve from this study. And step 2 is to define a very, since it is a focus group, you could go up until 20-25 questions, because what happens is when you invite people, they thoroughly enjoy the discussion, and you can go offbeat as well. So 20-25 question is actually very ambitious if the respondent is very chatty like me. But that's how a focus group study goes in. I'll give you an example. When I was at the consumer segment of smartphone, what we used to do was, before we launched any smartphone, we went to different cities, and we invited people at a cafe house, and we kept 4 phones which is in the same range of same price range of what we are launching, and asked, what did you like? Now we had the segment of the question on the looks, on the specs. Why would you choose a certain phone? And does for example, feature, does your camera capability makes you buy a smartphone, or it's the game of a processor, 6 GB RAM, 12 GB RAM, okay, I can play for longer, or is it battery? So for your segment, if I understood my target audience is youth, I'm only inviting youth into my focus group study, and asking those questions. What is making you buy your next smartphone? So that is the qualitative focus group. It's not thousands of respondents you get. If you are lucky, you would get 20-25 of sample space. Sample space are the respondent, we call in technical information. Then it is quantitative. Quantitative is you make a Google form and fly it on, and ask people if you so there are rewards as well. Some people give coupons if you respond to my question, spend a minute of your time, or if it is a good network, you have a good network of respondent, you get it for free as well. So the target is to get as much as possible in the quantitative.
So what kind of questions do you ask in a quantitative? Because I think I have seen a lot of Google Forms. I have always wondered if they actually really worked, and mainly because of the kind of questions that were asked in those questionnaires, right? So
I would probably think, if you are having that feeling, there is somebody who had drafted the question and still going through the process of how should we frame the questions properly, because how it is important. It is very important that your questions are right. I'll tell you, I have learned this hard way. to validate if my respondent is not click. It's to ask the question repetitive. Like, for example, have you been going for movies? And if you have clicked yes, and then just to reassure that you were not just blindly putting it, I would ask to a relevant kind of question. Do you enjoy movies? And then I will validate that whether you are a movie buff or not, or you were just clicking yes for everything. So framing questions are very, very, very important. I think it takes not less than a month to 40 days, because I think a group of people who understand the objective of the study should sit together and understand why are we asking this question, because it should not be very lengthy, it should not be very short. So to validate the whole process, because a lot of money is also put in. You can do it directly. I have done a lot of study directly, but you can also hire agency. They will do that job for you.
Acha. So how many people you should reach for both quantitative and qualitative? On what does that depend?
Well, actually, it depends upon the responses you have got. If everybody have responded, how did you like the service? Nobody had kept poor and very good. Everybody is neutral. That's a sad story to tell, because you have not achieved anything out of that study. So a good way is to have higher number so that you avoid those neutral kind of responses, and you have extreme emotion involved in these as an answer respondent. So the trick is to reach out to at least couple of thousands for quantitative, but on the other hand, qualitative is done on a personal basis, a focus group study. So I think that is easier. Even if you do 2025, it depends, and you understand that you have enough insight about the people, about the target audience, about the business as such altogether. I think that is good enough. I have achieved even for the lesser, because I didn't have a sample space. That's a different story. But I have achieved the channel, and I have achieved what kind of language to be achieved for my study, the objective, with fewer than 10 also.
Acha, oh.
Yeah. So it depends.
So I'm assuming that you've really handpicked those
people who knew the in and out of the industry, and they have helped in, and they all said the same thing. So it's a pattern. So if I asked more people, it would be same thing as well. So why not just stop it with fewer than 10?
Correct. Yeah, makes sense. And I think it would make more sense in the B2B setup also.
Right. It is mostly B2B, which I'm talking about. In qualitative, lesser than 10. But yeah, consumer segment, when you have B2C, you have very quick change of behavior. That requires a lot of frequent study to be done, rather than B2B, where the behavior is not as quickly changed in among people.
So for a brand like Huawei and a product like smartphone, what kind of cadence do you see would work best with these studies, qualitative, quantity? How frequently should one go about these?
We did before any launch, you should be doing one study, so that you are sure of your messaging. And after any launch, and smartphones get launched every 3 months, 6 months. You for every other brand, there is different life cycle altogether. Then there is something called voice of customer also. We had a very tight community in Huawei as a developer too. So apart from these study, you can learn a lot about behavior from these community. There is a set web portal where people log in and get badges if they contribute, resolve somebody's issue. So that is my second favorite topic, community development as such, because these people are the loyalists. They love your brand, and that's why they are 100% honest whenever they are giving a stinky remark or or appreciating something. If they say that your feature updates are buggy, so you have to think that, okay, before releasing an unstable firmware update, I should reach out to these guys who check the update properly and have a beta done with them, and then release a stable firmware update for a larger audience, rather than upsetting half the the Indian population. Most of the billion population have only couple of people run your beta and then do that. So for coming back to your question, for a consumer segment, I think a pre-launch, post-launch is good enough, and then most of the voice of customer you can hear from the community whenever you are updating a new firmware, or fixing a bug or something like that. Whenever something new is coming, just have more of social listening, community listening, have your keywords activated on Google or a TalkWalker or anywhere, and listen properly what audiences are speaking about the product.
Got it. Cool. So now that we've conducted all these studies, right? How do we make sure that these studies are the insights that we are gaining, they're accurate? Because my belief is sometimes our biases seep in, and how do we make them more actionable so that they're just not just getting into the repository, but also getting acted upon?
Actually, this is, I would say these are the three challenges of any consumer insight department altogether. A, how to counter the biases altogether. How my question should be as properly placed that somebody who's very loyalist or somebody who is anti will not be sticking to their guns, and they're giving their 100% of pure opinion altogether. So the other way is to not talk about brand, don't reveal your brand, so that biases are checked. You can be pro Apple or pro I'm so sorry, I'm just dropping in brand's name, and I would love to not talk about. You could be pro a product altogether, but just to avoid biases, it is important that you run your study anonymously. You just say that we are from some A company and we are running a test, and what would you like? Your study can involve different brands, but do not tell that where you are from, because the moment you tell where you're from, either it is very loyalist thing, checks in, oh, I love your product, and they are extra nice about everything, or they are against, they would just pitch about everything you have launched up until then, and then it is more like a service sort of call where you can't control that. So best way to counter your biases are do not reveal where you're coming from and do an anonymous test. Your second question was about how to make sure that's I think even today I see that sometimes I run a study and I'm not using that insight. That's a challenge a department has to come forward with the leadership to convince them that this insight is very, very important, and I think we should tweak our strategy. This is what go-to-market is all about. How you use the insight in your next coming launch or next update which is coming. It all depend upon the hierarchy and the structure of the company. If they are friendly and everything and good with the changes, you are easy to accommodate all the learnings you have learned from the consumer insight study.
Got it. Cool. And now let's assume that we've done the insight and everything. How do we measure the outcome or the result of that activity? How do we know that we've done a good job or a bad job, or things to improve on that? How do we measure that?
A quick way is marketing campaigns. When you have understood, for example, you had an objective launch, and the quick way is to run a marketing campaign, either LinkedIn, if it is B2B, or an Instagram campaign if it is B2C, to check out whether what you have learned from your consumer insight, is that right or not. You get enough responses, then that means that your insight was validated. This is pretty much on time. You can put in more money and then do the real objective of your campaign. Or if it is not working out, then go back to your agency, go back to your drawing board again and see where it went wrong, why people are not responding on my campaign. Paid campaign, I would say, is the best way to measure the insights as such. So sometimes you use these consumer insight study to only run any campaign, what kind of solution people are interested in and all that. So campaigns, I believe, is the best way to validate whether the consumer insight study was good enough or not.
Got it. Also, on a slightly different tangent, are there any useful tools that you are using for these studies? Anything that you like in particular?
Well, the most important tool is Google for me. I have alerts set for all my product, for all my brands, and also industry vertical. So the alert is for, I'll tell you in a fashion so that it is easier for anybody to understand. Niche it down to your product, then it comes from a family, then it comes from a vertical solution, and then your brand as such. So put your alert for all of these segments.
I do not understand all of these.
So, okay, for example, you have... let's say smartphones, because we've been speaking about smartphones, or just say cameras. You have point and shoot camera. That is a product. The name of the product is blah, 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 blah. Let's say XYZ. So that is your one alert. Second alert would be, it belongs from point and shoot cameras. So that is the family of the product. You launch a product.
The first one is what?
First is your product name.
Achha, name of the company, name of the...
name of the product only.
Okay.
Name of the product, which is C10 or Canon, blah, 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 blah. I don't remember those names. 3200 of Nikon or something. Correct. I have that. So that is your first alert. Second is, this was this was not a point and shoot. This was a manual camera. So my second alert would be manual cameras. Then third would be, it is good for portrait photography or videography. So my third alert would be the vertical, portrait or hospitality or event shooting. There are different kind of application in cameras as well. So that will be my vertical. And the last would be my brand, Canon, Nikon, or anything like that. So plus, you should always have your competitor also into alert. So if it is Canon, I would definitely have a Nikon or something otherwise, because the other part of consumer insight study is also your competitive intelligence, who is in the market, who is set for in the market. You should always watch out for that.
Correct. And apart from Google, are there any social media items in this list?
Social listening. There are tools. You have Talkwalker. Apart from Google Alert, I use Talkwalker. I use Hootsuite. There are a lot of tools in the market. In fact, if I told some, that would probably be outdated altogether. So I would suggest anyone, because in AI world, everything is changing so fast. Go ahead and research.
I think the use case is what we could talk about. Maybe what kind of tools, then people could check which ones they like best. Right. But I think use cases is what.
So all of these are for the social listening. What people are talking about a certain keywords, because keywords are very, very important. For you to understand what you want to hear, first you have to understand where do you want it. Like, for example, when I said my first alert is for my product, product D3, D3200D, whatever. I would see it in all platform. If in Twitter somebody is talking about it, if in Instagram somebody is talking about, or some developer site somebody is talking about it, I will listen on those platform. And these tools would help me understand how's the emotion like. People are complaining a lot about it, so my red zone would be triggered. What are they complaining about? Because the camera when on charge, after 2 years it would die out or something like that. So I would understand that and try to fix it. So it is important to have a tool to understand what people are talking, either pump that thing or reduce it, see through technical information how can we resolve that challenge.
Awesome. So those were all the questions that I had for you today, Khushboo, and I loved how you answered all of them.
Thank you.
I'm sure everybody who's going to watch this podcast are going to love the aesthetics, hopefully, and they'll also love all the insights that you guys shared.
Shout out for Archie who made this whole thing happen.
Thank you so much, Archie. Awesome.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot, Rutvij. Nice to have you in Bangalore and do this segment. Hopefully, we will do more in the future.
Definitely, we will. Awesome. On that note, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.